Hi guys, it's me and a sleepy Tiberius again. This is our next 10-minute talk, and we're just going to talk you through how to manage and kind of scale your training a little bit. The goal is just to kind of give you some guidelines so that you can manage stuff yourself a little bit. Obviously, I'm always here to help with enough warning, but sometimes life throws up things that I just don't have time to implement, and you perhaps don't necessarily want me to implement, and you want to look after yourself. So I've mocked up a week on Training Peaks. Now, this is very roughly representative of what I'm up to at the moment, just so that I can lend some context, because that is always important. So really, like, what you want to start with is like, what is the focus of my week? What phase of training am I in? And that will just help you identify what you need to do. I've always mark what are your key sessions, so that should help. But also, I think a more deeper understanding of what phase you're in also helps. So for me, it's a bit of a mixed bag. My focus this year is on Xterra Triathlon and some crit racing. But I do have the Gralloch coming up in May, so hence why one of my key sessions is a big long ride. I'm doing quite a lot of bike volume at the moment, just so that I can get through the Gralloch a hell of a lot better than I did last year, which I wasn't prepared for because I'd just come off honeymoon and it was pure hell. Anyway, so my key sessions, you can see you've got a bit of volume in the bike, brick session training for the upcoming start of the tri season, race swim start stuff, and some anaerobic work just to kind of top up my anaerobic stuff. Because as I say, I'm going to be doing quite a lot of crit racing as well. So that's always the place to start. Is when you're looking at your week ahead, what are the key sessions? Okay, as I say, if you focus on your key sessions, if you can only get those done in your week, they should be enough to keep you moving forwards. Okay, so always prioritize those, move those to places that you can know you definitely can do them. Um, Now, having said that, my general approach is to work in 3 to 4 day cycles, maybe 5 days. But you don't have to stick to that rigidly. Or everything's about compromise. Just the fundamental point is you don't want to be going too long without some form of recovery. So on big, heavy, high volume key weeks, you might just have a rest day on a Monday or something, and then you've got the rest of the week training, and then the next rest day is on a Monday. That isn't the default. Really, what we want is to be able to chip away at fatigue, and so you want regular recovery. So as you're moving things around, always make sure you're not going too far without some form of recovery, because as I say, you want to chip away at it. You are not a robot. The recovery is when you get better. So if there's a real absence of recovery, you're not going to improve. It's when your body grows and develops. Okay, so really make sure that alongside focusing on the key sessions, you've also got like recovery day as almost like another key session, the most important key session. Where are you going to fit that in your week? Okay, if you're ever unsure and you're struggling to see the big picture, get in touch. Talk to me or your coach, and we'll help you. Okay. Um, so yeah, focus on the key weeks to start with. Everything else is obviously still important, but everything else is the things to kind of skip, scale, swap, whatever you need to do in order to get the key work done. Okay. Um, so hopefully that helps, and I think if it another thing to say that hopefully helps is even with key sessions, if your week just doesn't work for you and you can't do it, or if it's an important but not key session and you can't do it, don't panic. Okay, the chances are it's almost certainly going to be the same, or a similar session coming up in the next week or the week after. No one session is that important. You've got to see it all in the bigger picture. So one thing you definitely want to avoid is spilling over into the next week. So say for example, I couldn't do this brick session. What I don't want to do is then put that in on Monday, because I'll probably have a brick session on the following Friday or Saturday or something, and then quickly you become overwhelmed with too much brickwork, with too much volume, with too much intensity, and you're just constantly playing catch up, and you just fall to pieces. Okay, if it comes down to it, and you have to skip a session, skip it, move on, come on to the next session. Don't try and always play catch up. Now, if certain patterns start to form, so the most common one for our triathletes, And this is a triathlon focused program, by the way, but all of these principles work just the same for our runners and cyclists. But I thought it'd just be easier to work off a triathlon program. The kind of most common things is that the pool sessions, the pool swims get dropped. And so if there are patterns that start to form, like you're always skipping the same session, I'm probably going to bring it up. Obviously, I'm always very diplomatic, or I try to be. And it's all about compromise and finding a way forwards. But if there's patterns starting to form, we'll need to figure out a solution. Okay, so that's kind of managing things, generally speaking. Don't go too far without recovery. Focus on your key sessions as your starting point. And you can't go too far wrong with that if that's like your general basis. Now, obviously, nice pretty plan, looks great. Even moving things around, it can get you most of the way. But sometimes you just an hour turns into 45 minutes or what have you. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about scaling workouts, and you should really feel confident in doing this. Okay. It's not always about scaling in terms of duration, but sometimes it's about scaling in terms of intensity, in terms of load as well. And you should always look at your session and think about like, what is the stimulus here? Like, what is it I need to subject my body to elicit a certain adaptation? And as long as you're kind of looking at that and like trying to fulfill that goal, again, you can't go too far wrong. So let's take this anaerobic session. Now, the goal of this is pretty clear. It's sprint work. It's long sprint work, 30 seconds, and some 1 minute efforts at the end. Okay, this is a very obvious one. It's not maybe always this obvious, but this is an obvious one. So what I want is to get out of this session is some sprint work. Now, if it comes to it and it's like, oh crap, I don't have an hour because I have to stretch afterwards, get shower, change, etc. I can squeeze out 45 minutes. That's all fine. Like, don't just ditch a session because the time you have available doesn't perfectly match, what is there. Let's get scaling things. All right. The first place to start is with the cool down. Okay. Here it is 5 minutes. The cool down is important. It's when you recycle lactate in your muscles and you help the recovery process. But lop it off. If you've got to be brutal, lop it off. Okay, so that's 5 minutes already. Then you want to go to the warm up and start to reduce that down. You need at least 10 minutes, I would suggest. But I could, again, save 15 minutes, save another 10 minutes there if absolutely necessary, particularly as I've got a pre-main set and I've got some anaerobic bursts. These are all intended to open up my legs before I do the sprints. So if I need to get brutal, I can cut 10 minutes off that warm up and it not be too much of an issue. And I'm already at 15 minutes of savings. So then if I'm like, right, I still need to save some time, then you can start to get into the main sets. And that's where you start, right, I've got 6 intervals here. Okay, let's take off 2. Let's take off 1, let's take off 2. I've still got 4 sprints and 2 60-second efforts. That's still a really good session. And so very quickly, hopefully you can kind of see how we can quickly condense things. It may not be a perfect execution, but you're fulfilling the criteria of the session. And so hopefully just these very quick little pointers, they just kind of give you an idea of where my mind is at when I'm planning things, how we're looking to work it. But just remember, the starting point is what phase am I in? What is the purpose of this week? What am I looking to get out of it? The key sessions will align with that purpose. If you're not sure where you're at in your plan and kind of what the week is about, ask. Okay, it should be hopefully clear, and you should hopefully know anyway. But if you don't, it's not a big deal. Just ask. Then focus on the key sessions. Focus on the recovery. When am I going to get that recovery in? It needs to be reasonable. 3 to 4 days, 5 maximum. Once you got that all sorted, you figured out when you do the key sessions. Then you start to look at everything else. Then you start to skip stuff, scale individual sessions, what have you. But that's the kind of process to go through. And hopefully that just gives you the starting point of building a little bit of confidence in managing things yourself.